In the manner in which you are most comfortable, follow along silently. Surely I am being turned to thee, O Allah, striving to be upright to he who originated the heaven and the earth, and I am not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. No associate has he in this am I commanded. I am of those who submit. O Allah, thou art the King, and there is no God but thee. Thou art my Lord, and I am thy servant, and I have been greatly unjust to myself, and I confess my faults. So grant me protection against all my faults, for none grants protection against faults but thee. And guide me into the best of morals, for none guides into the best of morals but thee. And turn away from me the evil and the indecent morals, for none can turn away from me the evil and the indecent morals but thee. And O Allah, bless Muhammad, and bless the true followers of Muhammad, as thou did bless Abraham and the true followers of Abraham, for surely thou art praised and magnified. And O Allah, make Muhammad successful, and make the true followers of Muhammad successful, as thou did make Abraham and the true followers of Abraham successful. For surely thou art praised and magnified. Ameen. You may be seated. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, we give him praise and thanks for any time that the human family strays or falls from the lofty position that he has them or has us on. He is always merciful enough that before he brings down his total destruction on the people who have deviated, a messenger, a warner, or a prophet. So we thank him for Moses and the Torah. We thank him for Jesus and the gospel. And we thank him for Muhammad and the Holy Quran. These worthy servants of Allah are we forever thankful to and for they are the foundational stones of the next three that I'm about to mention. For those of us who are in the diaspora of America, descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, if you will, we say that we thank Almighty God Allah for appearing to us in the personage of Master W. Farad Muhammad, the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims. We thank him for leaving paradise to come and seek and save that which was lost, and unfortunately today, in this present time, is still lost, the human family of the planet. But we thank him for coming to us first, the black man and woman in the hells of North America. And as we are taught in the history of Master Farad Muhammad, that he was in and out of America for 20 years. It started back in 1910. He was here, but he was looking for something. He was looking for a man that he could deposit his very mind into. And on July 4th, 1930, he made himself known. And in making himself known, he started to attract different people, those who were like himself, who had some of the original substance in them. And one day at one of the meetings, a man showed up, a Georgia-born black man, little man, small if you will, about 5'7". He showed up at the meeting. He was at a pinnacle in his life where things weren't going so well. It was very difficult in Michigan, Black Bottom, Detroit, and he showed up at this meeting. And at the end of the meeting, after Master Farad Muhammad had gave his lecture, this man came forward because he had recognized a lot of things that he had said from having knowledge of Scripture. Because his father being a Baptist preacher, his grandfather being a Baptist preacher, he was rooted in the King James Version of the Bible. So when he got close to that man, when the exceptions and the call was given, he said to him, he said, "I know who you are." And the man said, Master Farad Muhammad said back to him, "Yes, but who knows it but you?" and kind of pushed him on. In other words, I'll talk to you a little bit later. And then he kept on doing what he was doing. But needless to say, a relationship was born from that meeting at that very moment. And it was a relationship that was going to be inseparable. As one of my brothers said, it's the greatest love story that has ever been told. Between those two, Master Farad Muhammad and the man that he chose out of the class, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that bold, that courageous, that beautiful black man who is our brother who came out of the junk heap, just as you and I at some point was in the junk heap, and some still are. But because of him, we are on the path and the process that we are on today because of his undying love for the black man and woman and their suffering. And if we lived 1,000 years, we can never thank the two of them for the next man that I'm about to mention, because I didn't meet neither of those first two. I didn't meet Master Farad Muhammad. I didn't meet the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But the man who caused me to have love, respect, and honor for the first two is the man that's in our midst today. And he's like the first two. He's bold. He's courageous. He's our champion. And everywhere you go, he's known on this planet. All 196,940,000 square miles, he's known. Even in places where people don't even read, they know his name. And I need not say much more about that because we all know who I'm about to say. He's our friend, our teacher, our champion, our brother, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It is in those three holy and righteous names I greet you all once again with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak. All praise is due to Allah. We pray that Allah is blessing each and every one with everything that we may need to get through this time that we've entered into, and that we come out on the other side with everything that we may have prayed for. Everybody all right? Yes, sir. Thank you all for being here today. I guess something's going on in the city today. It must be Doom Day. Oh, okay, clear, got it. But that don't mean anything, because if the fight started right now, this is what we're gonna work with. We're gonna throw down. And it's not that we so bad or we're so tough, but it's what's backing you and I. And that's Master Farad Muhammad and his Christ, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So we would have the victory. Even if it came to the point where we lost our lives, we'd still be the winner. Why? Because 10,000 years from now, 100,000 years from now, the few that are here that fought will be remembered through history with kindness. So there was a few that took on many. A lot of us saw the movie 300, and we get blown up with that, because we know they was really talking about us. We the original Persians. Black men and women, that's who the fighters were. Everybody in Persia fights. Today, modern day Persia is Iran. I mean, the people look a little different, but the original people look like you and me. So much so, wherever you find people that are living in greatness today, they wearing our clothes. They wearing our name. We are the originators. We are the mothers and fathers of this planet. So much so that in our lesson it says, the question is asked, who is the original man? That is including our sisters too. The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. So we're not just owners of the planet, we own the entire universe. Why? Because our Father, the originators of the heavens and the earth, we're directly connected to him. One of our brothers was teaching once, he said, he was in his living room and he was looking at a plant. And he asked himself the question, he said, I wonder how old that plant is. Because if it's sitting here today, it didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It had to have a connection, a genealogy that goes all the way back. What is the origin of this plant that's in my living room? Well, I'm saying that because you and I have an origin, and it goes all the way back to the first one. That's how we got our color. Is that black is not a color, black is the essence of color. It is the essence of everything in the universe. If you think about it, the melanin that we possess, you ever cut a piece of lettuce open and leave it sitting for a little while? Or leave it sitting out too long? You cut an apple open, or any piece of fruit that's natural, it turns brown, don't it? It's going back to its original self. The only thing that don't turn brown or get dark is that which is unnatural or unoriginal. So brothers and sisters, we are the original people. If we want to, make a case for it, just look at how we are. And if we really want to prove that we're connected to the Creator, the originator, Allah himself, then look at our behavior. That's how we know that we are connected to the God. It's not, as we're taught in the lessons that the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said that mere belief accounts for nothing, if not carried into practice. See, a lot of people out there want to call you and me fake Muslims. They want to say, we're not Muslims. But a Muslim ain't one that put on a garb, grow a beard, paint it red, roll your pants up, put on a dress over that, and then say you a Muslim. That's not a Muslim. No. See, a lot of us are so ethereal, we think that putting on clothes and that's going to make us. No, it is our behavior. So whether we never wear a tie, a suit, a headpiece, a white garment, it's our behavior, because the real Muslim comes from here, the heart, and here. And it's how we treat one another that Allah finds favor with us. And of course, our prayers. Y'all all right? Yes, sir. Did I say Ramadan Mubarak? All praises due to Allah. I pray that Ramadan is being peaceful and smooth for you. So far, we've had some cool days, so the transition hasn't been that bad. We got a couple of hot days coming up, but we've already been prepped for that. Well, some hot days are coming, but there's some hotter ones behind that one. And all this is doing is preparing us for the hot day that we really can't see. You know, like I said, I like to use that martial arts analogy where you're in the dojo and sometimes your instructor will take you to the threshold of pain, and then sometimes a little bit beyond, you tap it. Okay, I got it, it hurt, I got it. Well, that's what Allah does to us. He takes us to the threshold of pain and a little bit beyond, because there's something great coming around the corner that we can't see. See, we don't know what it's like to have untold wealth. But what we're going through, this process called Ramadan and fasting, is preparing us to be able to handle it so we don't lose our minds. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan, well, I wasn't privy to the meeting, but our regional minister was telling me, he said, Brother Joseph, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said that the Muslims are going to be so rich one day that they're going to be a little bashful. They're going to be bashful. They're going to be shamed, you know, to admit that they had that kind of wealth. Now, I know a lot of us are looking around and say, well, how soon, Brother Joseph, is that going to take place? Because we would like to know that. But I'm just saying, what we're going through now is preparing us for that day, because the Honorable Louis Farrakhan don't give us wasteful words. He wouldn't say it if he didn't know it. We just say, we fast and pray that we can live long enough that Allah removes this devil, and the wealth that we're due, we are here to get it. Y'all all right, family? So just hold on. Don't quit. Because in the study circles on Fridays, we just finishing up mixed feelings and controversy. So sometimes you're going to run into a lot of things that's going to cause you to may want to fall into doubt. But you know that how you can tell if you are a believer, a real believer? A real believer has the proper view of God's man in our midst. So if you're not looking at him, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, with suspicion and doubt, then more than likely you are on the right path. I am on the right path. We can see who he is, know what he's saying is true, and we are obedient to the words that are given to us. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that wherever you see him, look at him. Where he tells you to go, go. And where he tells you to stay away from, stay away from. Those are instructions. And as Muslims, we hear and we obey. The only time we're not supposed to obey is when it conflicts with our religion. But the Honorable Louis Farrakhan has proven that he ain't going to never tell us anything that's going to conflict with our religion. He's trying to keep us closer and in line with Almighty God, Allah himself. So if we don't see him right, if we start to doubt the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who are we really doubting? His mind, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Allah, Master Faraz Muhammad's mind are all one. So if you say you love Allah and you doubting Farrakhan, you doubting Allah. We're doubting Allah because they're connected. Like I said, I mentioned it Friday in the study circle, how the Honorable Louis Farrakhan was teaching. He was saying how a lot of his students, you know, they were a little angry because he made them call themselves student minister. He said, don't get me wrong, you know, a lot of you know a lot of things. He said, you read a lot of books. You have degrees and all that stuff. He said, I don't have none. I don't read no books. He said, so I respect your degree, but you got to respect my connection. Oh, that's saying a whole lot right there. Who is he connected to that he don't have to read a book, but yet he can come out and teach those with books? Goes over to Mecca, teach the so-called scholars over there and had never been taught by one of them. Who is he really connected to? So I say, brothers and sisters, if we are in doubt today, we better wipe the scales off our eyes and take another look at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He is the man to get us through that door. Y'all all right? Well, brothers and sisters, I'm not going to foam up at the mouth too much right now. We're going to bring up another student in the ministry who's going to come and give us what Allah has put on her heart. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So at this time, let's bring to the rostrum another student in the ministry, our sister, Sister Wahida Nasir. Let's bring her on with a rousing round of applause. Come on, we can do better than that. Give it up. Give it up. Praise be to Allah.
Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak. How's your Ramadan going so far? Oh, it's such a blessing, it really is. I wanted to share something from the ayat in Quran dealing with Ramadan. I know I'm just sort of reiterating a few points. It is the month of fasting when the Quran was sent down. One of the things that I like to put emphasis on is the benefit that we really get when we adhere to the fast. And I bear witness. There is tremendous benefit in actually restoring our health when we adhere to the fast. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. Once this month I did kind of go off, but praise be to Allah, back on track now. But you can feel the difference and the benefit, not to mention the blessings for the sacrifice, and it is a sacrifice for all of us to be able to just go such a long time at this time of year, fasting with nothing. But there are tremendous benefits. Another point I wanted to make, Brother Umar Kareem did a very, at a janazah, he did a very in-depth explanation of rituals and how we kind of get caught up with rituals as far as our prayers. You can make dua all throughout the day. Wherever you are driving, you can keep Allah in remembrance at all times. This ayat brought to mind where it says, it's ayat 115, it says, "To Allah belong the east and the west. Wherever you turn, there is the presence of Allah." That is just so beautiful. So those of us, even people that say that we don't pray, or we don't do it right, or whatever they say, a lot of people have a lot to say, and they really don't read, and it's evident that they really do not read. So just the fact that we have this in front of us, that a lot of times you may be in a location where you're not sure which direction is east. So if you're making your prayer in earnest, you just make your prayer whichever way you're facing. So that's what this ayat in Quran, the Quran is very clear. There's some places that if we read it, we know that it does not apply to us today, but it applied to those before us. However, there are passages that let you know in the Quran, it covers where we are today. This particular ayat in Surah 2 reads, "The society thus organized must live under laws that would guide their everyday life based on eternal principles of righteousness and fair dealing, cleanliness and sobriety, honesty and helpfulness one to another, yet shaped into concrete forms to suit times and circumstances and the varying needs of average men and women." So when this was revealed, we know just reading this to fit times and circumstances. So we're not riding camels, so we're going to be clean shaven, we're going to be well dressed, we're not going to grow beards, because these are the times that we're in now. So everything that is evident in the Quran is just right there in our faces for us. And it leaves no stones unturned in terms of any questions that anybody might have, or what we may question, "Well, I don't understand this." There's ayats throughout the Quran that we can certainly relate to, and I referred to this one once before, ayat 2, Surah 2, ayat 79, when there's so much talk about everything is from the hadiths. The hadiths should not even be in place because they were authored by men. And so the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, had nothing whatsoever to do with, compiling hadiths. So in this particular ayat, which always struck me and stood out with me, ayat 79, it says, "Woe to those who write the book with their own hand and say it is from Allah." They can't be any more plain than that when Allah has instructed us that the Quran is the book and you don't really need anything else. So in dealing with other books, we know that all the books by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan are in line with the writings of the Quran. The hadiths really are not. That's why they instruct you to be careful about which hadiths you get involved with. So it's better to not get involved with any of them, although it is good to know something about the lives of the prophets. Also, I've reflected on the emphasis put on the Prophet Muhammad and so much less emphasis put on the Prophet Abraham. When Allah says, that is the example that we should follow. But of Muhammad, he says, he was no more than a prophet. You know, he was no more than a messenger. So he was no more or less than Allah's other prophets and messengers. But Abraham, the emphasis is definitely put there. And I do question that when I'm talking to other believers in other communities. Why so much to do about this one? You are totally overlooking the one that you should be uplifting, which he was a friend to Allah. So I just wanted to make those few points because things that stand out with us and resonate with us are guideposts and guidelines and like in your face, this is what you need to be focusing on and understanding. Also, Sister Ava was so on time when she said, referred to us as being in sort of like a cartoon existence. That was just so on time when she referred to that. I was looking at the article in this paper about the flooding. When you look at the natural disasters that are plaguing all of us across the nation, across the globe. Now, these are natural disasters that America's weaponry, her war machines, nothing that she has can compete with what Allah has. And so when there's flooding, when there's disasters of, magnitude, just astronomical disasters, she's at a loss. This country is at a loss, as is other countries. So you can't fight the power, but this country, they're so stubborn and they're so reluctant to accept the truth. It's like, okay, you really are not the God. Because all this time, we really believe from what we've seen of them, we really believe that they believe they are. But time and again, Allah continues to show us and show them, no, you're not the boss here, okay? Now I'm just gonna show you one more time. And so these things keep happening but they're still in denial. This devil is not going to acknowledge anything. I just want to share this with you. I was talking with some young sisters that have come to me recently that I was speaking with about a year or so ago. And so they came to my home, which I was very surprised. And one of them really wants to know more about Islam and this way of life, but she's confused as to which Islam. So in speaking with the three of them, one of the little sisters said to me, she said, she was looking at an article in our paper, she said, I like white people. And I said to her, she said, y'all don't like white people, do you? I said, it's not that. I said, we do not like evil. It is evil that we have a problem with. Then I asked her, who runs the country? So you don't even have to think about that. We have nothing to do with designing the clothes and the laws that are laid down. Well, President Obama, but he was running nothing, honey. He was running nothing. And so I tried, as best I could, I tried to explain that. But when she made that remark about liking white people, I took her back. I said, we had an experience and we are here because of some of our own African brothers who liked white people, who were in awe of white people. And that had everything to do with how we happen to end up here today. And more recently, those 9 people in that church in South Carolina, they liked white people. And it cost them their lives. And so we have so many references that we can see. And I just reiterated to her, it is not white people, it is the evil. But I didn't try to get into any deep thing with her because I really want them to come out and kind of hear it from someone who is more better versed than myself. And so the little that I can share with them, I do. But the fact that after a year or so, they came to my door asking for information. Now, they're not here today, but inshallah, they will be, because we're working it. We're working. I see 3 little MGT. And it's just a beautiful experience. Even, like, you can't make people come out. All you can do is continue to share with them and let them see that you're genuine. And I mean, look, I'm an old lady. These 3 young people, one's graduating next week, and they're young, 20 and 19, and they came looking for this word. So it's not me so much as it's this truth. And then when I shared that with the little sister about, you know, the liking white people, and I said, that's fine, you know, but she couldn't respond because it was more food for thought than anything else. It's like, okay, you keep on liking white folks. You know, you need to just first love ourselves. And I ask her, how much do you love yourself? How much do you love our people? How much do you love us? So, you know, let's try to get into, and anybody that we talk to, let's try, because I wonder sometimes how many of us have that same sentiment in this nation of Islam. I like white people. You know, God forbid, like when we were in the transition, we saw what happened. Man, them brothers couldn't wait to get a cracker girl. They just couldn't wait. It's like, oh, I can do it now. It's like everybody's the same. So that really showed the true colors. Pray Allah that when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan leaves us, that our fruit and our brothers will not lose their minds, that we will not lose our minds to that extent, because you still have, you know, there's still order in the nation. And when the minister says it'll never fall again, we can see why. Because at that time, when the messenger left, there was nothing set up in place because we were not prepared, because we did not expect it to happen. So now that we're getting this preparation, we really should be all right. But I pray a lot that we keep our wits about us, and that, you know, we don't just go, you know, ape when we know that the Honorable Ms. Louis Farrakhan is no longer with us. We need to be so thankful and so grateful to Allah for his presence with us today, and his patience with us today, and his love for us. You know, I was saying that, you know, in the study circle, I mean, it's like, I'm at a place now where, okay, enough is enough. If you don't want to accept, that's fine. But don't come at me with anything negative, because, I mean, really, don't let my form and my size fool you, because I can really go ape out there, okay? I can really turn crazy, because it's like no ending. It's like never ending. It's like, okay, what next? What do you want to gripe about now? You're on the outside looking in. That is what makes me more angry than anything. You're on the outside looking in. You can't tell me what's going on in my house. You can only assume that you know, or think that, but you don't know nothing. So do not make remarks about what the minister's doing, what's not going on. Well, y'all ain't got nothing. No. Guess what? We will be feeding you, okay? And anybody, any face that I remember, I'm going to put that in your face when I see you, okay? When you come to us for, oh no, it's like you get the back of the line. You get all the way in the back, okay? Because that's where we are now. When you've been in this, I've been in this for nearly 50 years. So when you've been in this and you've seen it, you just kind of get fed up with, we love the minister. We loved the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We love them. And so we love Master Prophet Muhammad. If you don't agree with it, that's on you. If you don't understand it, that's on you. But you have to understand, we love these people like parents. The nation birthed us. You know, I mean, I don't think anybody was more dead than I was. I was certainly a Jew woman in black skin. You know, but We have to come to grips with who we really are. When we're out there, we have to know how to, I'm still working on how to handle people. I'm working on maintaining my composure, you know, with the opposition out there. And it's not easy. It's really not easy. But I thank Allah for the teachings. I thank Allah for the message. And I thank Allah for my own grounding, that I was not left out there in the wilderness, because I could have been left out there crazy. And I'm so thankful that I wasn't, and I was able to see the light again and come back home. Thank you so much. Blessed Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum.
All praise is due to Allah. Give her a round of applause. Sister Wahida Nasir, all praise is due to Allah. Brothers and sisters, our sisters kept making reference to going ape. You know, in the lessons we taught, that's called a cracked atom. You know, so each one of us is an atom. And the thing that cracks us in most cases is the fact that there's a mixed feeling which creates a controversy, which is where we are right now. And all of us are dealing with something that deals with mixed feelings and controversies in our very lives. You know, the question was asked, how did the people of Noah's day see Noah? And how were their minds affected by the leadership of that day? Well, let's bring that to a modern context. How is the Honorable Louis Farrakhan viewed today by the rulership, the president? You know what I mean? Black leaders, preachers. How is he viewed by them? And why, most importantly, why is he viewed in the negative light that they see him in? Yeah, the way they view him is in a negative light. Why? Because it's interfering with something that is not good for you and me, and he's trying to clear it up so that we can get away from what they're doing to us. Right now, alcohol, every commercial that comes on has got something to do with alcohol. They don't put cigarettes on there no more, but now they got the, what do you call them, the mist cigarettes? Now they're saying that those things, that where the smoke comes out of it, is not really tobacco, but it's carcinogenic. In other words, you can get cancer from inhaling that mist. So I'm saying, but they make a lot of money. What, fast food don't produce a lot of money for our open enemy? As though it's a poison and it's killing black people first all over America? Dr. Wesley just gave us a whole breakdown of how the food is killing us. The water is killing us. The air is killing us. So a man like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan produces, and young brothers, young student ministers like our brother, to go and do research and come back and go deeper into what the Honorable Louis Farrakhan has already talked about. That's why he told us, you are a student. He said, I'm the #1 talker. He said, if I don't talk, you won't have nothing to say. It's a fact. Every student minister out there is riding on the coattail of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And he's being fed, as I said at the very inception, by Allah himself, through his Christ, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And y'all, they say to us, well, y'all, we so glad that y'all stopped saying that, you know, that the Elijah Muhammad is alive, you know. Well, who told you that? We still believe that he is alive. We've never abandoned that. I mean, he's right among us, and he's feeding our man in our midst. You can't deal with the devil or Satan and not be guided by God to get through it. No man can do that. So the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is being fed directly. Listen to this. I want to read something just from the Quran before our brother comes on. And you know, we should come out to the study circle because there's a lot in it. Because you don't know what Allah has put on your heart to share with us that can help another brother or sister in the circle. And on Fridays, I mean, we get it in. It's a beautiful time. Listen to this. This is in Surah 7, and it's dealing with Noah. It says, certainly we sent Noah to his people. So he said, oh, my people, serve Allah. You have no God other than him. Indeed, I fear for you the chastisement of a grievous day. Isn't the Honorable Louis Farrakhan telling us that right now? Yes, sir. He said, come on, let's work the economic blueprint of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said, because famine is coming to America. Well, let's explain famine real quick. That don't mean it's not going to be any food, but the average of our people are not going to be able to afford it. That's where the famine comes in. So you can't even go out and buy ramen noodles. Why? Because the dollar is going to plummet. It's going to crash. So everybody think they got a bank account right now. That's not going to work for you. I'm just saying. So the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said, let's get together, pool our resources, and grow our own food. If we get him the money, he knows what to do with it. He's not a robber of his people. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan, I got to go back to Alex Jones. Alex Jones said from his mouth, he said, I met Minister Farrakhan. He said, he's a beautiful man. This is what Alex Jones, a white boy, guys, has a syndicated radio show. And out of his mouth, he said, Joel Osteen, who probably has one of the biggest television evangelistic church followings on the planet. He said, I met Joel Osteen's father. He said the man was the epitome of evil. He said, I talked to him for 3 minutes and all I could see no, this is Alex Jones. Just pull up his own YouTube, you can pull it up. Alex Jones talking about the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. He said, but when I talked to Minister Farrakhan, he said, I talked to him for hours and all I felt was peace and serenity. Now this is Satan talking. So if Satan can get peace and serenity, what about you and me? If we just sit and listen to him. So much so, them days that we feeling real bad, and maybe you feeling like you want to break your fast, let's do what Winnie Mandela said she did back in the day. She said that when times got hard and she'd be talking to her daughter and her husband was locked up, and she'd be talking and she said, it was real sad for her. And she said, my daughter would look at me and say, Mommy, or Mom, let's put on Farrakhan. And she said, and we put on, no, it doesn't matter what lecture it was, put on any lecture. And in it, there's a healing in the lecture. Farrakhan is the balm in Gilead. Oh, yes, all praise is due to Allah. All we got to do is put the balm on. It ain't a physical rub on your skin balm, but it's a rub it into your mind through your ears kind of balm. You know what I mean? Put it in. Some people say balm, the paste that you rub on, or you can say balm. Let it go into your ears, go 2.5 inches or 2.5 miles down and explode and blow out some of that negative energy that's lying in our mind that's killing us on a subliminal level. They say that, well, I don't want to go to that right now. Let me stick with where I'm at. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan, all we got to do is put on one of his lectures. And brothers and sisters, we're given the lesson that how the earth is 93 million miles from the sun, right? And sunlight traveling from the sun 93 million miles away at 186,000 miles per second, it takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds or 500 seconds for that sunlight to reach the earth, strike it at its equator, and cause it to spin at this terrific speed of 1,037 1/3 miles per hour. Y'all on it? Y'all with me? But then it says that, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that when you insert truth into your mind, through your ears, is that blood traveling from your head to your heel and back to your head again takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds or 500 seconds. So within that time, if you can put in truth, no matter how down you are, you can feel yourself perking up. So what's the medicine for that? Put on Farrakhan. Find some of them lectures that still got the plastic on them that you ain't even opened yet. All praise is due to Allah. Open them up. Put them in. Sit and hear the man of God feed us, heal us, and bring us out of the wretched condition that we're in. You know what the problem is? A lot of times, brothers and sisters, sometimes, the scripture refers to grown folks as the children of this, the children of that. We like children. We got all them lectures about a minister. That's like a child having a whole lot of toys, and they got so many, they don't know which one to play with, so the rest, as soon as they get a new one, they throw it to the side and don't even play with. That's the way we treat the minister sometimes, like he's a toy. But we got the healing that we need to answer to everything we need and the lectures that he's given to us that we got at home collecting dust. Y'all all right? Praise be to Allah. But brothers and sisters, I see our brother is on deck. I'm not going to belabor the point any longer. Let's bring to this rostrum a helper in the cause of Islam, a helper of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Delaware Valley Student Regional Minister, our brother, Student Minister Rodney Muhammad. Let's bring him on with a rousing round of applause. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, sir, brother.
All right. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the one God to whom praise is due, the Lord of the worlds, we thank Almighty God, cannot thank him enough. He is the revealer of all truth, the sender of all the prophets. We thank him for Moses and the Torah, for Jesus and the gospel. We thank him for Muhammad and the revelation of the Holy Quran. As a student of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, I'm most thankful for Allah's intervention in our affairs in the divine person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. We thank him for his wise choice and a messenger Messiah to us in the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, And to the two of them, I stand before you eternally indebted for their student, their apostle, their servant, my leader, teacher, and guide, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Let me greet you again with the greeting words of peace. Salam alaikum. And Ramadan Mubarak. We thank Almighty God for such an hour as this. No people have had a better teacher and a leader than we have today in the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. To understand so much and to be direct recipients of such a rich body of knowledge, and to be afforded wisdom that's unequaled. We'll spend a lifetime seeking to master just what we have. We don't have to start looking for something new when we have not exhausted, and we don't need to look for something new when we're far from mastering what we have. I know that there are many that are out for the festivities today, and so in consideration of your fast, we certainly don't want to be long. We want to talk about Black world history. And there are many subject matters that the human being can engage, but of all of them, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said history, first, he said, is most attractive. And history has great attraction because in the gene of the original people is their history. When you study genetics, you'll see that for those that are familiar with their family lineage, you have a great resemblance to someone in your family chain, perhaps long since gone, but from the gene, it's inherited. That's history. And from your own life gene, if you're blessed to have offspring, down the line, someone will be what they call a closer image to you. So as we study all subject matter, history, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, is most attractive and is best qualified to reward our research. And that the human being, or the Negro, let's put it like that, the Negro, he said, is too much engaged in folly, not serious, and giving what he said would be careful attention to past events. Because if you know what happened, you'll know what's happening. Make sense? If you know what happened before you got here, you'll know what you're in right now. If you know who you were, then you'll know who you are. If you know the nature or the origin of yourself and the nature and the origin of others, then you have not only the nature of what you're dealing with presently, but you also know the nature of who you're dealing with presently. Most of our people don't know the full nature of what they're dealing with. And because you don't know the nature of what you're dealing with, you don't know the nature of who you're dealing with. You're dealing with a man that has mastered the science of evil. When you're dealing with the science of evil, because you resist at one level, that doesn't mean they stop evil. They find another way to do it. There's a scripture that talks about the daughters of Babylon. And you know, when a good father has a daughter, he dotes over her, buys her the finest things, and wants her to go to the finest schools. He wants her refined. So Babylon was a wicked kingdom. So when something becomes the daughters of Babylon, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, this shows the enemy refining themselves in their evil and sophisticating their methods. In the crudest sense, to hold you in captivity, you might have been in a physical chain. But the daughters of Babylon, meaning now an enemy who has graduated his methods. He don't need a physical chain no more. You ain't going nowhere. He ain't got to physically hold you, because when he held you before, it's because if he didn't do that, you were sure to run. You were sure to make yourself separate from him. But when he sophisticates his method and takes the chain from your ankle to your brain, what does he need a physical chain for now? You're tied to him. He's made you like himself. He don't have to force evil on us now. We're practitioners of his evil. We're tied to him. So, black world history, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the first thing he had to do, because we're completely lost in this enemy, make no mistake about it, he would say to us, if a man who's lynching you, raping you, burning your home, calling you to a religion where the cross is said to be the center of the gospel, but he burns a cross on your lawn. If a man won't treat you right, but you're fighting to get your babies into his school, he said he won't teach you right. And it makes sense, because if you're taught right, you won't accept mistreatment. But there's something in us, you know, and if you listen to talk radio, black talk radio, you can see the victim status on us. All we talk about is what they're doing to us. And if we ain't talking about what they're doing to us, somebody talks about what they did to us. And some people put the warning sign up in their calls of, if we ain't careful, what they gonna do to us. It's the spirit of defeat, where worse than slavery and captivity is our adjustment to it. In other words, I'm in a slave colonized status, but because I'm living in abject poverty and squalor, I'm dissatisfied. But if you put me in a condo or put me in Harvard or something, well, I'm not free, just a different kind of slave. I'm all right with that. I'm not really fighting to get liberated. I'm just fighting for a front seat in my slave-like status. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had to show us a history that was completely devoid of the people that we're lost in. In other words, he had to go beyond white civilization. He even went beyond white presence on the planet. He went to a time when there were no white folks on the planet. There was such a time. But when you're lost in somebody, you think everything started with them. And for a while, he was getting away with it. See, other people tried to push back on unjust laws. And that's okay. Unjust policies. And that's okay. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pushed back on them on the question of God. That's a whole lot different. Dr. King marched to change laws, but the minister said the Honorable Elijah Muhammad went after the attitude that produced the unjust laws in the first place. It's one thing to take down the spider web, but if you are not careful, when you take down the spider web, if the spider still lives, because the web comes from inside the spider. If there's a web of lies and a system of false teaching and a system of evil practices against people, if you take the web down and leave the spider, he'll only find another way to put the web back up. So the only way to fight your enemy is not to take down the spider web. You got to kill the spider. That's God's plan, is to kill the spider so that the web never comes back again. Are you following now? In the book of Genesis, which is the book of genes, dealing with a genetic history. Before I read this passage, you'll notice at the beginning of the book of Genesis, you see what is called a creation. That on the fifth day or so, he said, let us make man. And then said, let us make him in our image and after our likeness. That's in the first chapter of Genesis. But when you go to the second chapter of Genesis, it starts off, there is no us. The Lord God created man. He formed him from the dust, right? Then he breathed into him of his own spirit. See? And then he became a living soul. This is really two different creations. We've always thought it was the same thing, and he just said it another way. No, it's two different men. In the first chapter of the book of Genesis, you say, let us make man. That's a lesser authority. Appealing to a higher authority for permission to make a man. Well, how are you going to make him? Well, we're not going to make him, God, in your image. We're going to make him in our image. And we're going to make him to operate, to live his life after the image that we put in his mind. This first chapter of Genesis is not dealing with the original man. It's dealing with the made man. And the made man wants to make men after his own image and after his like. How was he made? That becomes the question, because the way he was made, that'll show you what he's making out of men. He was made and conceived in evil and a genocidal mission. According to supreme wisdom, it was to kill a black germ, destroy it so that the weaker germ would have an existence to be able to reign. I know that's a deeper science to understand, and sometimes people don't connect that with what you fighting in Washington, D.C. and that, but you better believe that a man that believes this brought more people to Washington, D.C. than anybody that you could get your hands on. In the history of this country, nothing has exceeded the Million Man March. But when Farrakhan went to Washington, he didn't go appealing to our captors to let us go. Because what Farrakhan believes and what he's teaching, man, you'll break free even if he don't want to let you go. He got to let you go when you got supreme wisdom. They said, Minister Farrakhan, you were talking about all these measurements of the Washington Monument, the reflecting pool and all. What was all of that kind of stuff? Channel 6 was asking him. He said that was to let the wise people in this country know that I know their secrets. See, this land was conceived in secrets that have been held back from you and I. And the world is stitched together with hidden histories that you and I knew nothing about. So in the second chapter of Genesis, you see the Lord God creating somebody. He ain't making a man. He's creating. When you make something, you're taking creative essence. And what this man did was to alter what God had already created, to make another man in his image and after his likeness. He's a warlike creature. That's how he was made. So that's the way he made us. We're fighters. We're just fighting the wrong people. He's a killer. He made us like him. We kill each other. Huh? You can't catalog for me crimes that the white world has done to us that I can't come refute right back and show you we're not doing that to each other. That's why after this kind of work of evil, a man like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is said to have the hardest job of any man in the annals of history. Why would he have a hard job to go get his own people who are suffering? God knows they want to come out of suffering. Man, they're going to make you suffer. Just to take them out of their suffering, they cause him to suffer. Many nights did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad suffer, and many nights did Mother Clara Muhammad suffer. Not at the hands of white people, black people. Well, you know, the messenger had to be on the run for 7 years. He wasn't on the run from white people. That's right. Wasn't white people chasing him for 7 years, but it's black people. Yeah, that's right. Wasn't white people committed to killing the Honorable. When he talked with white folks, they said, if you had come out earlier teaching this, we would have outright killed you. Right. They recognized that it was time. But we didn't recognize that it was time. So we were chasing him. When I say we, I just mean the Negro. But here in Genesis, it says, and he, the Lord, saith unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve, I will judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. So, whatever problem this people are having, whoever this people are, that's the seed of Abraham, and whatever land they're in is not their land. And the people are strange to them, so the ways are going to be strange. However, God offers himself as the solution. So this goes to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, that no matter what effort we put forth in this land, the solution, he said, to our problem is divine. You're not going to get around that. And that means, divine means of God. Now, anybody that you can remember in your science classes, what solutions were. And you can take different chemicals like, or elements, you can take water and then oil and put oil in there and stir it up. Scientifically, that's called a solution. But if you leave it sitting there in the container, you'll find that the molecular structure of water, as opposed to the molecular structure of oil, that a natural separation will take place right in the same container. And when you come back after a period of time, you'll probably find the water on top and all the oil sitting at the bottom. Are you following now? You don't have to go in there and force the separation. It's natural that it'll take place. So the solution in these United States of America, it's a solution because it's called a melting pot, where you're supposed to put everybody in here and stir us up together. And somehow we're going to sing Kumbaya and everybody's going to get along. But what we're finding, that as we deal with the elements, whether they are political, whether they are commercial, whether they are social, even spiritual and moral, we're finding a natural separation is taking place. That even Thurgood Marshall said, if America is the melting pot, either the Negro didn't get in the pot or he got in the pot and didn't melt down. Even after Dr. King's assassination and 100 cities went up in smoke, and they convened the Kerner Commission to study civil disobedience, their conclusion was that no matter how you tried to stir this up, America is two nations, one black, one white, separate but unequal. So we go back to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, that the solution to our problem is divine. Now that doesn't mean that we have not had great leadership that tried to work with what they have. One thing that black folks show you who stood out, that is not how much you have, and it's not how little you have, it's what you do with what you have. God didn't come and raise Harriet Tubman, but she had enough in her to say that I'm going to keep going back to the South and do my best to free the slaves. And she even ended her work saying that there are thousands more I would have been able to free if they had only known they were slaves. She didn't know how to teach them that they were free men. Some she had to pull a gun on and force them off of the plantation, because surely if she had left them, they would have turned coat and allowed the slave masters to know what the other slaves were up to. Booker T. Washington never claimed that God came and raised them up, but he said, maybe we should take what little knowledge we have of the earth, set our buckets down where we are, and start building something for ourselves right here in America. Now we find out from investigation that in the latter years of the Nation of Islam's work in America, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was actually in talks with the administration of Tuskegee Institute with the mind of purchasing that school, which is a major HBCU, teaching not only the regular sciences, but agriculture, the chemistry and the engineering and the things that you need for nation building. No other institution, black owned and run, comes closer than Tuskegee Institute to addressing all of those sciences. So my point is that even without the claim that God has raised you, even without being endowed with supreme wisdom, we've had and show great resilience as a people that even in our ignorance, we were producing giants. This is how great we are. So imagine what we could be now that unequaled guidance has come. Imagine what we can be with a knowledge that has proven superior. Because if it wasn't superior, then certainly our opponents would have been able to destroy this knowledge by now. Nobody is forsaking this knowledge from white America. It's black America that's forsaking the knowledge that was given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You want to take his students and exalt them and despise the teacher. Well, Malcolm said, by any means necessary. He never said that while he was a disciple of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because there is a means. There is a way out of this. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't say any which way, do whatever you can. That don't show unequaled guidance. When you got guidance, you got a method. When you got guidance, you know the steps. That's why he would say, come and follow me. I know the steps because I'm following God. And he said, we're at a time of a changing of worlds. So I must follow close behind my God. In order for you to follow him, you got to follow close behind me. Those were his words. Malcolm said, by any means necessary, after he left the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because after he left unequaled guidance, he was not certain what every next step would be. Yes, he offered resistance, but resistance is not advancement. Resistance is just that. You're trying to resist what somebody is doing to you, but there's no plan to get beyond the one that's doing it. So God offers himself as the solution. So as we lay the next couple of weeks, we want to talk about Black world history. I want to start off just talking about no one took us further in history than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We have people that have gone back thousands of years, and certainly some that have gone back beyond the 6,000-year period of the present world that we're in. And you have to remember that our enemies told us anything beyond the history that they're giving us of 6,000 years, they call it prehistoric. And then they want you to believe that giant lizards were ruling the planet. And by the time you go and look at these so-called bones and the thing, you're not even entertaining that there were greater civilizations than they're producing right now on Earth. Thousands and even millions of years ago, they make you to think that beyond 6,000 years, which is his only time on the planet, that there were giant lizards walking around. So it's no need in investigating anything. Beyond this period, we'll call it prehistoric. Before history. No, it was before you started lying. It was before you rewrote history. He is a historical revisionist. And if we don't revise him, we won't revise our mind. He's shaped us in his own iniquity. Are you following now? And without history, you can't climb out of what you are in. In the book of John, I'm going to read it here. There was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. And the same came to Jesus by night. Now, when a man travels by night, that means he don't hold press conferences. He travels by night because he really don't want the world to see him. When we read books of scripture in particular, you'll find little tiny footnotes and things. You've never seen these people, but their writings have impacted populations on the earth for thousands of years. They're called the religious scholars. And they're primarily responsible for how we're all divided up and mixed up. This is why scholarship has to become a hallmark of the Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's life, because scholarship is what has your people messed up. Mystery God teaching. If you don't know how to go into scholarship, you won't scientifically know how to break that down. You can't just walk around talking about there is no mystery God and God is a man. Eventually, your idea is going to be challenged. Somebody's going to challenge you on that. There is no philosophy or teaching that is secure of being challenged. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew that challenges would come, but he knew better that he had to answer to any challenge. So when the Honorable Louis Farrakhan went to Mecca, he stood on God coming in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. He knew everybody wasn't going to believe that. So don't get excited when somebody gets on Facebook saying something different. Everybody not going to believe you. It's already written they won't believe you. Are you following now? What you got to be sure of is that you got an answer to their disbelief. So when they came after him and wanted him to denounce Farad Muhammad as being that, he didn't defy them at Mas Mariam. He did it in Mecca. And he told us there was nobody to stand at his side. Well, there was no E-team. In Mecca, there was Mother Khadijah, who came and stood at his side. And he was talking about going down. But he was not going to deny Master Farad Muhammad. Some years later, he went, and when he gave an exposition on Master Farad Muhammad, 40 scholars, the head scholar said he couldn't sleep that night. But the minister said he slept well. Why? Because he's confident in the answers that we got from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that's where we're going to have to be in the days coming. Because the real warfare, the real battle is for the minds of our people. Sometimes we hear that as if, well, since I'm a believer, they ain't after my mind. Your mind is the main one they after. Because if they can get you to speak a word of disbelief in what God revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they've won most of the battle. God needs some stout-hearted soldiers that are standing no matter what, our own spiritual Alamo, where no matter what, you may outnumber us. You may try to overwhelm us and overpower us, but never will we give up what was revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Nicodemus traveled by night. First thing he said to Jesus was, he said unto him, Rabbi, which means teacher, we know that thou art a teacher coming from God. Now you got a lot of people who will say, well, you know, it's obvious, you know, Farrakhan is a prophet. Well, I can tell he's divinely endowed in that, but they don't buy into everything that Minister Farrakhan believes. Respect it. You've heard a lot of people say, oh no, he speaks the truth. Well, it must not have moved you that much. You haven't joined up with him. You believe, you know, you got, this, you know, I get it. But you know, I don't think the truth is that much. You got some people say, well, I don't agree with everything. He said, well, what do you disagree with? Then they can't even bring it up. They just don't want to look foolish. This is why, you know, every time you believe somebody is sent by God and you believe in them enough and your loyalty is solid and everything, the world wants to call you a fool. So Paul had to say, yeah, we're full of Christ. And you be wise to be a fool today. For God has taken the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. Now, he said, well, I know you from God. He said, for no man can do these miracles that thou doest except God be with him. They know. I mean, the Million Man March, it was like a miracle. Right in the midst of the world population, like a miracle. And they know that the government didn't help Minister Farrakhan. They know that the major institutions, even in the black community, did not help Minister Farrakhan. They know that he had opposition every step of the way. And that October 4th, 1995, the Jews brought out a big headline because they saw the groundswell of support that was coming up from the people. So they said, we got to stop this. Remember, they put out Farrakhan calls Jews bloodsuckers. They felt like the affection that black community had for the Jewish population, that it would ill affect them in Farrakhan's call. Not only did it not stop those that were headed for Washington, D.C., but more decided to get on board as a result of the attack. And many of them agreed that they were, but he never called them bloodsuckers. He did talk about bloodsuckers of the poor, talking about supreme wisdom. I mean, they just decided to put their name in there. So now that you put your name in there, maybe we need to look into that. Find out how much you've been sucking out. Yeah, they know. Ain't no way a man pulled that off without God being with him. And then after it was done, never took no credit, said to God be the glory. You know, didn't stay around and do thousands of interviews where he could bask in Farrakhan, how did you do it? He got up and went overseas where he couldn't take no interviews and went on a world tour. Don't let people tell you, well, you know, Minister Farrakhan, he didn't do no follow-up after the Million Man March. He did a colossal follow-up. Because he went abroad and connected you with the people of color all over this planet and began to acquaint them with your plight because they did not know you were here. Go into the lessons. Some of them didn't know till after 60 years or so. You've been over here, they have not known you. We've been hidden under the enemy's name and his religion. And he molded us and shaped us to reject our people abroad. But the minister went and began to connect us, remembering the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that Master Farad Muhammad had gone out ahead of him and already made friends for him. And he brought back so many expensive gifts of people who were showing their appreciation for him. He had never met these folks before. He had never had dinner with these people before. How did they become so friendly to him? Because the God went out ahead of him. He said, brother, Master Farad Muhammad has already gone out ahead of you and made friends. Boy, who wouldn't love a God like that? Where you got friends already. And guess what? Because he went, if you went into a land and said, I'm with Farrakhan, you'll find them laying out everything, setting everything up for you. Oh, but there's a price. Because once they set everything up for you, then everybody's going to gather around and they want to hear what you got to say. if you with him, surely you have something to say. I hope you've studied something and ain't just been around listening to cliches, because they're ready for you to share something with them, because they know whatever he shared, it has lifted them. And hopefully we can always share what would lift. Now look Nicodemus. He didn't want everybody to see him, so he came by night. And once he said these things, Jesus answered and said unto him, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Nicodemus said unto him, how can a man be born when he's old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born? See, that's a natural man who's only thinking in graphic, carnal terms. So Jesus said, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. And that which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is spirit. Marvel not that I said unto thee, ye must be born again. Now watch what he said. He said, for the wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but you cannot tell from whence it comes. And you cannot tell whither it goeth. So when the wind is blowing, he's saying scientifically, you can't go and show me just where the wind started. And as the wind blows past you, you can't show me exactly where it ends. And he said, as you cannot see whither it cometh or whither it goeth, so is everyone that is born of the Spirit. See, the people of the Spirit have no birth record. The people of the Spirit, you don't know when we began, neither will you be here long enough to write a death certificate for the people of the, all you know is we was here when you got here. Are you following now? And what you should know is that no matter what you do, we'll be here long after you are gone. Because the original people of the earth cannot be destroyed. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan recently said, we're colonized. And, ancient Rome colonized its subjects. And once Rome colonized you, they brought the Roman way of life into your land. And your people were impacted with Rome. And no one was strong enough to rise up against the Roman Empire to break free from Rome's grip on that land. We are in a modern day Roman Empire. Haven't you ever wondered what happened to the Romans? We never read about their extinction. We don't read about the earth opening up and swallowing up all the Romans. Well, where did they go? Where are the Romans? See, they changed their name to Italians. But those are the Romans. Are you following now? And they changed their name to Italians, and even though Columbus is said to have discovered America, they said it was really an Italian or a Roman explorer, Amerigo Vespucci. That's why it's called America and not Columbus. This is Rome. Rome had representatives of the people. Rome had a Senate and one who sat over it. Rome had an army that was spread out around the ancient world of that time. America has an army, and she's spread out over 135 countries. She has military bases set up. She's stretched out just like Rome, and no one has been powerful enough to rise up against America. to break America's power so they can get out of her grip. The only way people got away from Rome, Rome fell from within, and the way they're going to get away from America, she's collapsing from within. The minister say her government is imploding right now as I speak. You can't save America. I can't save America. Her doom is well bought and earned. What you can save is your own black self. Who can get out of this is you and me. But you and me, we have to let go of what has fallen. We have to let go of what's been condemned. Lest we end up condemned and we end up falling with it. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was calling his people out from the destruction that neither he nor us could stop. So today we just end up with something about how we ended up like this. First of all, the Negro is a production of a hidden 64-year history that black people are not taught about. Even now, slavery is diluted in the schools. They almost make slavery look like black folks had a big cookout. I'm not kidding you. When you go and look at some of these textbooks and stuff, and so there's no pain, there's no suffering associated with it. That's why Bill Maher could use the N-word, talking about, I'm not a house nigger. And he just said this because they can joke about it because we don't take it serious. This is why young rappers are talking about, we use the word nigger. I was listening to rappers last night, and almost everyone was using the word nigger over and over again. He said, we're using it in a way so we can take away his power. You don't see Jews doing that. You don't see other people. When you use a derogatory term to them, they don't use the term that you're using on them to say we're trying to take the power out of it. They come after you if you use that term referring to them. We're the only people that keep using the word that's filled with hatred and used in a way and designed in a way to denigrate us. So the Negro is a production of this hidden 64. Where does 64 years come from? In the history books, they'll teach us that the first slaves arrived here in 1619. But in the Congressional Library, it records the first slaves getting here in the year 1555. So between 1619 and 1555, you have a 64-year dark history. And that's why this is never talked about, because they make you think that the people that got here in 1619 were completely pliable, that all they had to do was get them off the ships and put them in the fields and they started working. The truth is, the people that they got here in 1555, they were great builders. Some of them were teaching them how to build. You think these colonialists that came over from England knew how to build what you see today? No, they did not know that. Black folks built the White House. A black man had photostatic memory of a design for Washington, D.C., Benjamin Banneker. They were not the builders that we put there. Most of them came from the prisons. Most of them came from the lower dregs of the European society. And to clean themselves up of that, they put these people on a ship and got rid of them. That's why in Message to the Black Man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes that it was a low-base white people who enslaved us. Low-base means, first of all, they were rejected by their own people. Their own people didn't want them. So that means they already had a complex. Before they got their hands on us, they had a complex. But this is a dark period. Now, ever since this 6,000 years, what they have been using as a tool to bring folks under subjection is grafting. Grafting is when you take a product and you unite it with a dissimilar product, and you end up making a product that's of neither of the two that made it in the first place. In other words, once you make the third product, it can never go back to being the first one. Nor can it go back to really being the second one. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us a demonstration of what grafting looks like, where a person can take an orange, which is an original fruit. A person can take a lemon, which is an original fruit, but when you graft the two of them, you end up with a grapefruit. The grapefruit is neither the lemon nor the orange anymore. Are you following now? You can take a horse and then take the donkey. The donkey can produce another donkey. The horse can produce a young colt, which grows into another horse. But when you graft the two of them, you make a creature called a mule. A mule cannot reproduce itself. So when you take a white mind coupled with a dead black mind, you end up with a Negro. And like the mule can't reproduce, the Negro can't think for himself. You can't make a Negro without a white mind. In fact, the most effective tool and weapon in the hands of your oppressor is the mind of a Negro. Because the Negro mind is designed, he's like the man with the talents. Somebody had 5 and they went and produced more, and the Lord was pleased with them. And somebody had 3 and they produced more. But remember, somebody had a talent, and he took his talent and he buried that talent. See, the Negro buries his talent. He buries it in the white man's civilization. He uses his brain power, his talent, his skill, and everything to help build that world, and he won't take his talent to build his own. So when you have the mind of a Negro, the Negro cannot think for himself. All of his aims and goals is for a better place in the white world. He's not fighting for his own world. We're not out here marching for our own world. We're out here marching for the white man to give us a better place in his world. We're not even trying to take over rulership from him to say maybe we can rule it better. We tried that, putting a black man in the White House. That upset them so bad. That's a bad photo op. For the world to look at them and a black man is sitting over the White House. What did you get after 8 years? You got a photo op. You didn't start doing bad after Trump got in. You was already doing bad. Tell the truth. You weren't unemployed. Trump didn't make you unemployed. If you was unemployed, you was unemployed even before Trump got in the White House. Trump didn't turn this country to go down to hell. It was already going to hell. Trump put it on a roller coaster. He's just making it go faster than it was going in the first place. The only difference between Obama and Trump, with Obama your eyes was closed, you woke up now that Donald Trump done got in office. So when the enemies came amongst us, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that we had to round up all we could find. So how did you find them? Well, it was easy. They didn't look like us. So anybody who wasn't looking like us, we rounded them up. When you have a knowledge of black world history, you may not like racial profiling, but you can understand where it came from. They're paying you back. Because we rode around, it didn't make no difference. We didn't ask you if you was white and innocent or white and guilty. If you was white, you was rounded up. I call that racial profiling. And the only ones we didn't round up were the ones that were hidden. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches. And the death march means that we had an expectation that they would not live out that death march. Now, everything I'm talking about can be found in history. So you can think we're sitting up here making up some kind of fairy tale, but if you go study history, you'll find these events. And it's a hidden history that as Moses lifted up the serpent of the wilderness, you notice Jesus never talks about the children of Israel being in bondage to Pharaoh, yet he says, I'm here to fulfill the law of Moses. But the Moses he talked about lifted up the serpent of the wilderness. That's another whole hidden history that we did not know about until the Honorable Elijah Muhammad brought us what God taught him. So we ran them into a place called Europe, and some of them lived. And they began to live in the caves and the hillsides of Europe for protection. In the 18th surah of the Quran, it's called the cave. I'm just reading a couple of passages so we understand something. So we prevented them from hearing in the cave for a number of years. Then we raised them up that we might know which of the two parties was best able to calculate the time for which they remained. See, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that essentially they were made to reign for 6,000 years. But in this condition, they lost 2,000 of those years, he taught us. So they had to be awakened now. They got to calculate how much time they got left. The language is already in the Quran, it just has to be understood. They need to calculate how much time remains. It's like 4,000 years. But according to white folks, they're saying that this history deals with Joseph of Armenia and his going to England in Glattenborough. Think of this now. And that they would remain in this condition for only 375 years. Now, they put this in the Encyclopedia Britannica, and it would normally dispute with the history that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has given us. But really, the England, and it shows you that the sun's rising in the east, and the sun's traveling in the sky through the south so that it sets in the west, means that the sun is never in the north corner. So as the mouth of the cave faced the north, which is there in England, the mouth of the cave facing the north, it means sunlight never got to them. Now that even has spiritual significance. That's why it's in the Quran just the way that it is, that the sun started out in one place and ended up in another place, but it never went north. Which is to show you that after you've been taken from the east on a westerly course and laid up in the north corner or the continent of North America, light of divine would be cut off from you and I. And it has been cut off for over 400 years. The 375 years, they were there in that condition for 2,000 years. But when you take the time that Master Farad Muhammad stood up to declare our independence in 1930 and subtracted from when we got here, according to the Congressional Library in 1555, you get exactly 375 years. Because the history is talking about a people in the future. They were there for 2,000 years. They'll never fulfill what they said was happening over 375 years. That is us here in North America. Coming in 1555 and not being declared to really be free until 1930, July 4th, when Master Farad Muhammad. And of course, the way you're going to have to organize this people, you're going to have to know something about Jesus. Because that's the way the people have been molded. So the 19th surah of the Quran, called Maryam, deals with the birth of Jesus. But since it was an Italian explorer, or rather a Roman explorer, who founded this land, Amerigo Vespucci, Jesus lived under Roman occupation. The 30th surah of the Quran is the Romans. That's why I said when you multiply, Mother Tanetta said the 19 times the 30, you get 570. It was 570 AD that Muhammad was born. That's the Muhammad of Arabia. You follow? But he prefigures the Muhammad that would come. And this Muhammad comes under the 19 and the 30 and declares our independence there, right here in the wilderness of North America. So I'm confident that we're on time. I'm confident that we're in the right time with the right man. I know that what was revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, nobody has shown us anything greater. We are the stone that the builders rejected. And we have to become the headstone, the corner of a whole new world order. That's why we have to be born again. We were raised in the religion of our enemies. We were shaped in the culture of our enemies. We were given the false knowledge of our enemies, which is we must be born into a greater knowledge, an unequaled wisdom, and a new culture, and be refined in the new culture that was given to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to give to the black man and woman of America. Thank you for listening as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. All praise is due to Allah. We're thankful to Almighty God for his coming. And he has come. Make no mistake about it. The minister knows that we have to take a hit. And when you see these contenders getting ready for, let's say, a heavyweight championship bout, you find them, they start training months ahead to get ready for the fight. They're running to get their wind up. They're doing all kinds of things. They're beating on the bags. They're taking their body almost through torture. Why? Because they want to condition it. Well, if all they got to do is knock somebody out, why go through all that conditioning of the body? The body's not being conditioned for you to deliver a blow. It's being conditioned for you to be able to take one. So when it comes to our moral and spiritual development, we got to get in a spiritual gymnasium and almost take ourselves through rigorous training and discipline so that we're ready to take. You're not going to be able to avoid this hit. You ain't going to be able to bob and weave this one. So you make the body strong enough. That's why Ali, he used to rope the dope. He could stay on the ropes long enough till he could just cause the enemy to exhaust themselves. When they almost don't have nothing left, then you could say, now it's my turn. And you can come up off the ropes and start tagging them, you know. Well, we got to rope the dope. We have to get ready to get on the ropes and take a hit. You ain't going to be able to get past this one. And what the enemy looks for is that he could smite the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. The hits that will be coming won't be coming just from bullets. It'll be coming from bits of computer information as they fire slack talk and gossip all over the planet. They're going to slack talk and gossip on us in a way that you won't be able to turn anywhere without hearing negativity about us. See, it's one thing you hear them attacking Elijah Muhammad, you hear them attacking Minister Farrakhan, and some of us may get hooked, you know, hot under the collar, but most are saying, well, I escaped detection. Well, he'll be gone on this one. And the hit will come directly at us. And one or two things got to happen. Either you fall from the hit or you say, you know, ain't nothing like a good fight then. I'm ready to throw something back. You know, bring it on. And if I don't know enough about it, I'm going to study what you said. I'm going to go get my book and look at some, if I got to read it back out. I need to be ready to fight, because if you ain't fighting, you going down. If you don't stand for Elijah and Farrakhan, you're going down. Sister Maria, my wife deceased, had a dream. And we were sitting with the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and she told him about the dream. He wanted to hear it. And she said she saw FOI with tape over their mouth being buried alive. And he said, sister, what that represents is that when the propaganda against me and the nation starts, it's going to have dirt in it. And everybody that fails to lift their tongue to defend me will get buried under the propaganda. That's deep. She didn't say the dream she saw them being buried. They weren't dead. They were being buried alive. Nothing could be more frightening. And he said to us then, his daughter, one of his daughters had a dream, and they told everybody to stand for prayer, and when they stood for prayer, got ready to bow and put our hands out, the prayer was different. And so she began to back out of the room from everybody, because somebody had changed the prayer. We're not going to be able to escape taking the hit. You got to know what belongs to us and what don't belong to us. And you got to know who belongs to us and who don't belong to us. You need oil to keep your lamp burning. And the world ends like that for the righteous, where 5 of the bridesmaids got fire in their lamp, and the others, their fire went out. And so they said, let us borrow from yours. And you would think, well, if I got a little bit left, I'll give you something so you can get your fire going again. But see, this is talking about faith and belief. You can't give somebody else your faith. You mess around and don't cultivate your own sense of faith in that. You can't run in here at the last minute and then say the believers is crew, they wouldn't share with me. They can't share with you what's in their heart. You got to get it in yours. Are you following? I don't know no other way to do it. I know some people out there trying to do it on a correspondence course. You may be watching YouTube and everything. This is the only way I know how to do it. Give something of yourself every day, every week. Give something of your money every week. Are you following now? Because whatever you have, whatever you put it in, you give your attention to that thing. And whatever you don't put it in, you start losing attention for that thing. We're not going to be able to escape a hit. And those that are looking at study guide, Mixed Feelings and Controversy, it said persecution is designed to manifest weakness. So that means God ain't going to stop persecution. He's going to allow it to come where it can manifest. And it's not manifesting weakness so that you can just go down. It's manifesting weakness so we'll know where we need to get stronger at. In Islam, hell is not the end all. Like we grew up, man, you going to hell. What's going to happen down there? You going to burn up eternally. Well, nothing can burn eternally. The messages say that it's either going to burn up or whatever. It doesn't burn. Hell is designed to get you straight. If you don't do something to put yourself in a heavenly state, then you go to hell, which is a condition right here. And in hell, when you get enough of hell, you get your act together. That's the real hell. God, I ain't ready to come to heaven yet. All right, go to hell. You'll be back. You get enough of hell. Huh? It's a condition. We're not perfect, but we don't carry no guns. We have no history of, we shot each other last Saturday night. Are you following now? Try to eat better, try to talk better, try to entertain better thought, try to have better conversation of things that will lift us, advance us. Most of us are doing a pretty good job trying to improve ourselves and that. Where are you going? That's doing better than that. Like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, if you got peace with your brother and sister, you have prosperity and you're advancing yourself and you're growing in knowledge and wisdom. And your children are safe and secure under the knowledge of God and you're all living by his will. Why would you want to die and go somewhere else, he said. If you could do all that, what more are you looking for in a heaven in the sky? Which is based on the false teaching of your enemy, you know? So I don't know any other way to do it than to tough it through the houses that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad set up for us. And the nation that he's trying to build right here. Ain't no, you know, we like, oh Lord, we gonna die, and we go into this new kingdom. You ain't going to, you need people to unite to go in the kingdom. And you think we're gonna live divided all our life. You over at this church, you don't, he preaching against that preacher at that church. You over in this boss and we're preaching against that one and that. You're gonna stay divided all your life and you think you're gonna die and go somewhere and automatically we're gonna be united. You're going with the same attitude. Come on. Anywhere else that you got right here. You've made no plans to get rid of the way you think. Right here. So how you going to go somewhere else and experience something different? You can only experience based on your line of thinking. Right. That's a science. You want to feel better? Think better. You cannot get better and feel better thinking bad. Bad thoughts degrade the body. Good thoughts release endorphins. They uplift the body. So it's got to happen in the mind. If it don't happen there, it's not going to happen anywhere else on your body for you. Your body's going to follow your mind. So we thank you all for being out with us today. Oh man, that's great. Let me ask a question. No one's out for their first time, right? Everybody's been out before, right? I'm looking at faces. I think I've seen you before. Okay, good. But look, if you feel that what you heard today is the truth and good for us as a people, we invite you to come on and join up with the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. It's a spiritual army. This is spiritual knowledge. You know, Nicodemus couldn't figure out what Jesus was talking about being born again, because I don't care how high you go in this world, you don't understand spiritual things till you taught spiritual knowledge. And then you can see it the way he sees it. And until that happens for you, you know, you'll never get to this. You can say Elijah Muhammad only went to the 4th grade in this world's educational system, but the scripture says, how is it that this man without letters is yet learned? He don't have no PhD behind his name, but I guarantee you he taught PhDs. So he had to be educated somehow. He got it from somewhere. You know, they got this thing about we went and made something up. Well, then you ought to be able to knock it out of the park at any given time if you got the right knowledge. How has somebody made something up and it's been here 84 years and you ain't been able to take it down yet? That alone should make us take another look at it. So if you're out and you want to take the Honorable Louis Farrakhan up on his invitation to join Islam as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, this is your chance to do that. Very quickly, we want to take up our public offering. If you have $20, if you have $50 or $100, this is your opportunity to give and sow a seed. We know a lot of people out at O'Doon Day, boys. Hot out there today, isn't it? But who can give $20? How many can give